Hello, I'm Nate, aka B-Tier Mutineer, and in today's video I want to share with you all my thoughts on the new hardcore mode added to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I have a hot take that hardcore makes the game easier for more unskilled players like me, but I'll explain what I mean by that later after I take you through the major changes in this patch and more importantly what hardcore mode is all about. Before we get into it, I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to my members who help keep this channel running. I'd really appreciate it if you'd consider joining the channel as a member to support me and unlock perks like early access to videos. Joining is very much appreciated, but not required. I am always thankful, even if you just take the time to like the video and maybe leave a comment. Back to KCD2. Warhorse did some more stuff than just hardcore in this patch, so here's a quick summary of the patch notes. Herb prices were rebalanced so they can't be sold for more than what they are bought for. At the barber, they added a bald option for Henry, which I really appreciate since a shaved head is the style I personally prefer, and they fixed various issues, especially crashes, which is always good to see. But the star of the show is hardcore mode, which makes the game harder ostensibly, but in my opinion just more fun and immersive, and even possibly easier depending on how you play the game. The changes hardcore mode brings are these. In terms of navigation, fast travel is disabled, you can no longer see your position on the map, the compass no longer shows you cardinal directions, and also doesn't display quest markers or locations unless you're very close to them. In terms of combat, apparently enemies are more aggressive and won't give you as much breathing room, especially when you're fighting against a group. The directional arrows highlighting your weapon's position are no longer shown. I think you're also not supposed to see block indicators, though I could swear that occasionally I saw some. In general, you can't see your health or stamina bars or the stamina bar of your horse, though of course there are still the visual and auditory cues that tell you when you're running out of stamina or low on health, so this just makes the game feel more immersive. I don't feel like you're losing out on anything by not having those bars on the screen. And finally, at the start of the game, you are required to choose at least 3 negative perks for Henry, which will add difficulty or perhaps just extra flavor to your playthrough. I believe there's an achievement you can get if you complete a playthrough with all these negative perks enabled. The perks you can choose from are Bad Back, which reduces your carrying capacity and also makes it so that every time you bend down to pick herbs, there's a chance for you to get a twinge in your back that causes you to move slower for a while. Heavy Footed increases noise and also wears down your shoes faster. Shoes are actually one of those things that I always find wear down quickly, and I keep not having a kit to fix them, so this perk might make things difficult unless you want to walk barefoot everywhere. There's the added difficulty for stealth too, since you just naturally make more noise while moving, so you'll have to be extra careful. Numbskull slows down your experience gain by 40%. I genuinely laughed when I read the description of this one, and I will absolutely try to do a dumb playthrough at some point. Terrible charisma, lowered XP from Numbskull, taking weird perks or maybe not any at all. I'm already very excited at the idea of a dumb challenge run. Somnambulant is a perk apparently returning from the first game, which gives you a chance whenever you go to sleep to wake up in a random part of the map, due to the sleepwalking, of course. You also lose energy faster, which is going to make you sleep more often and thus have more chances to end up God knows where. Hangry Henry will increase the amount of food you'll need to consume. It reduces the amount food will fill you up for and increases your digestion rate. And if you're starving, your charisma, speech, and intimidation will all get a penalty. Personally, I always find that I have a lot of food in my inventory that either goes bad before I can eat it, or else dried food that sits there for a long time. So I'm not sure if this perk is going to have a significant enough impact to make you feel worried about food. I haven't tried it yet, but I will eventually do so. Sweaty makes you get dirty faster and also smell bad, which makes NPCs more likely to discover you while you're sneaking around. So another penalty towards stealth, though also speech-based characters, since you have to work harder to keep yourself clean and nice smelling for the purpose of convincing people. Picky Eater causes all food in your inventory to spoil faster, and when gutting an animal you also get less meat since you're picky about the cuts you like from it. Bashful makes you gain speech experience slower, and also stops you from being able to ask NPCs for directions, which was something added to hardcore mode due to the added navigation challenge, and because it makes sense you'd be able to ask for directions anyway. Punchable Face increases the hostility of travelers you can encounter in the world, and also disables enemies' option to surrender, meaning that every fight is now to the death. Or, well, if you can run away and hide, not necessarily. Finally, Menace causes being branded for a crime to be permanent. After that, if you're caught again doing a serious crime, you'll be sentenced to death by execution. So be sure not to get caught. Guards will punish you more severely, and the consequences of those punishments will be stronger. I'll be honest, no idea what this second part means, since you try to avoid being caught anyway, so you don't end up being killed. But I guess some crimes are minor and wouldn't lead to your execution, so instead you'd get a punishment with consequences. Whenever I got caught by a guard, I tried to persuade them to let me go, and if that didn't work, then I ran away and hid in the forest. I never actually got punished for a crime, so I can't say how impactful this negative perk would be. One thing that's important to note is that most of these negative perks just make the game more difficult early on, not so much later in the game, because you can get perks when you level up that mitigate these negative effects and also just increase your skills, which in general will make things easier. So I think the real challenge with these negative perks would be to not choose any positive perks when you level up, or at least not choose any positive perks that specifically negate or mitigate the negative effect from the hardcore starting perks. I do think it says something about this mode that even the devs said on their official post about hardcore that this mode isn't just about making the game harder, but about making it more immersive. And I think they 100% succeeded at making the game more immersive with hardcore. More difficult? Not really. And now I'll finally explain why. The 3 reasons why I found playing on hardcore mode easier are these: removed fast travel, the map and compass limitations, and finally the removal of the UI elements for your weapons direction and health and stamina bars. You'd think these changes make the game harder, but I think it greatly depends on how you play the game. For me, immersion is a huge part of RPGs, and I don't necessarily mean realism by this, just getting so caught up in exploring the world and interacting with the game that I can imagine what it would be like to be there for real. So the first thing, fast travel is removed, and because of this, you won't be forced into random encounters on the map. When you fast travel, you can get stopped by bandits or wolves or sometimes, rarely, something like friendly travelers. The problem with that is that you can't easily flee from the combat-related events if you fast travel. But if you're just traveling normally by foot or by horse, you can see bandits ahead of you, see or hear wolves, and you can choose to either avoid them or try to approach them carefully, sneakily, or just run past them if you're on a horse. And you can also save before you try to engage them if you do want to engage them. Whereas when you're fast traveling, you might just get thrown right into the encounter and not have time to save before it turns into combat. And then you'll lose possibly hours of progress like I talked about in my early impressions video, and you might get frustrated and not really want to play the game much anymore. That's certainly what happened to me, and the reason I haven't yet made a proper review video for KCD2. I got burned out on fast traveling due to having to backtrack too much for certain side quests, and losing a bunch of progress multiple times due to random bandits stopping my fast travel on the road and then killing me. Here's the thing, in that early impressions video I mentioned how much I hate the save system in KCD2, and a lot of commenters essentially were like, get good, or tried to convince me that actually the save system is great. No. I use a mod that lets me save whenever I want, and that allows me to continue playing the game. Because I absolutely refuse to make my character drink an alcoholic beverage so that I, the player, can save the game. Makes no sense, adds nothing to the experience other than annoyance. Anyway, the reason I'm mentioning this fact is that when I was playing the game for the first time, I hadn't downloaded that save mod yet, and I kept forgetting to save for hours at a time while exploring the world because the game is generally super immersive. That's a good thing, that the game is so immersive that you don't think about doing mechanical or gamey things like saving or even leveling up or checking your stats sometimes. So the thing about fast travel being disabled in hardcore is that not only does it let me choose exactly when and how to interact with various groups of enemies or events, but it also makes the game feel even more immersive as you keep traveling through the region and learning its landmarks, how it looks like, about how long it will take you to get from one town to another, for example, and so on. And this is tied with my second reason why hardcore is more fun, which is that you don't have an icon that shows where you are on the map, and you don't have cardinal directions on your compass, and no markers either, unless you're close to the point of interest or quest objective. These changes actually helped me focus more on exploring the world and remembering various areas based on experiences or observations that I had about what I saw when traveling through there. One time, I remembered being chased by a group of wolves, and after killing one of them, I was not doing so well, so I decided to run away towards the miller's place. And I thought I got rid of the wolves in the forest, only to see them chasing me down the road, and suddenly the miller just comes out and runs full speed towards the wolves to kill them. And I was like, holy shit, I have to go help him out. And that experience I had while traveling normally helped me remember exactly what the road leading up to the miller looks like. It just got cemented in my brain, and very similar to that, I had other experiences or maybe just things I noticed about the area that I keep remembering when I'm in that specific area, and which help me navigate better. And this also makes me feel more skilled in a way. Like, I feel good about the fact that I can look at the map, look at my surroundings, and figure out where I am and where I'm supposed to go to reach my destination. I'm quite bad with directions and navigation in real life, have to use Google Maps for pretty much everything, so I'm really happy that at least in this video game, I can be an apt navigator. It feels very satisfying to figure things out on my own. I think this way you also realize that in the regular game mode, on foot or on horse travel felt like a chore to you because you knew you had the option to fast travel. But actually, I kind of feel like traveling manually takes less time than fast traveling, especially with the possible random events that you can easily avoid on your own. The world feels big, but it isn't actually that vast or that empty, not that hard to navigate either. It really just takes a few minutes at most to travel between two areas, as long as you kind of know where you're going. And fast travel in a game like this is also just such a shame, because the world is so beautiful, and if you travel on foot or on horseback, you get to enjoy the scenery and have some time alone with your thoughts. This slower travel gives you time to think, which I think is always a wonderful thing. Another thing I found surprisingly helpful was the fact that the directional icons for combat and health and stamina bars were removed. I don't know why they were so bothersome in the base game, but they were, and I didn't realize it until I played hardcore mode without them. And at first, during the tutorial duel with Hans, I was like, oh god no, I'm never gonna get this right, but I actually got used to it really quickly, and suddenly combat felt a lot more natural and intuitive. The lack of those UI elements allowed my brain to switch its focus to actually try to look and listen to the natural cues and react more logically and intuitively. To me, it feels a lot better to directly engage with combat like this instead of focusing on the little arrows and icons and bars. And here's the thing, in the base game, I actually tried playing a Henry who was decked out in heavy armor and had a sword and shield, and even though he was able to tank more hits from enemies, I died way more in the base game than in hardcore mode. In hardcore, I've been playing a Henry who isn't wearing any kind of metal armor and only wields a short sword. No shield, no bulky armor, no big weapon, and I die far less often. And even when I do die in hardcore, I'm like, well, it's hardcore, it's harder, so I'm not as frustrated about it. But in general, my experience is just a lot smoother and the game feels far more like the kind of RPG I want to play. So I hope that you can understand how the game feels actually easier and more enjoyable for me from my experience with hardcore based on the way I played the base game. I really liked picking my negative perks and I enjoyed the effects of them. I didn't want to have the crutch of asking NPCs for directions available, and I also do struggle to talk to strangers in real life. For the bad back one, I have a bad back myself, and I also don't really want to pick herbs other than for a quest, because I find herb picking extremely annoying due to the janky third-person animation that you're forced into every time, but also because I don't make use of alchemy. So since picking herbs isn't really something that interests me that much, not something I was going to do anyway, I was like, great, I don't have much to worry about the movement speed penalty. Frankly, I'd even want this penalty to be stronger, because right now it's just a tiny movement speed penalty for a very short time after you pick an herb. Not really very impactful. But the other part of this perk, the reduced carrying capacity, is actually something I'm enjoying. It makes me think more about what I want to carry, what I want to pick up and hold on to for myself or to sell. And of course you can also get a horse fairly easily and can have your horse carry some stuff. I personally like to put my stolen items on the horse until they stop having the stolen tag on them, just in case I get caught and don't feel like running away. No idea if my horse would also get searched, but hoping that it wouldn't be the case. I would mention that there is one issue about the no fast travel rule in hardcore, which is related to the insane amount of going back and forth you have to do during some side quests. The quest designers might have designed some of these quests assuming that the player would use fast travel, and because of that they felt like they could add way too much going back and forth to solve the quest. Or maybe they just assumed that players wouldn't hyper-focus on a quest and work on it until completion, so they felt like the backtracking was okay since players would just do the quest in little chunks every once in a while. I obviously can't know the reason for this, but the end result is that some quests, at least one in particular that I'm probably almost never going to do again, have an unholy amount of necessary backtracking. I'm talking about the quest with the Voivod and his daughter. Never again, man. Never again. The amount of times I got lost in those fucking rocks at night and also around the nomad camp is astounding. And that was in the base game, with my current location always shown on the map. But overall, I would say that the lack of fast travel has made my experience way better due to getting to enjoy the view, and more importantly, avoid dying to random bandits or wolves. So I don't know if other people are going to agree with me on this take, which is why I called it a hot take, because I have no idea how other people play the game. It's possible I just have a weird way of playing because my brain is wired differently, and because of that, hardcore mode makes the game easier and more fun for me, even though in general it's supposed to be more difficult. I'm just not feeling that difficulty at all. And you know from my guides and videos in general that I'm not a min-maxer. I'm not very good at games, I have motor skill issues, focusing issues from my ADHD and so on. So for me to say that the game is easier on hardcore, it seems very strange to me. So I had to share my thoughts and see what other people think. I'm curious, if you've tried out hardcore mode, how do you feel about it? Does it feel harder for you, easier, the same as the base game? And which negative perks did you choose? Maybe those make more of a difference. Feel free to share any other details about your playthrough, like your general build, gear, stuff like that. I think it would be very interesting to compare our experiences with this mode so far and see how they differ. I am still planning on eventually making the full review of KCD2, but it's going to take a while since I still haven't managed to finish a playthrough. Blame my ADHD and also fast travel in the base game and the save system without mods. But these have been my thoughts on the new hardcore mode added to KCD2. If you're looking forward to more videos about RPGs and other games I like, do remember to subscribe and leave a like and comment while you're at it too. They really help. This has been B Tier Mutineer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.